Tampa Bay Spirits presents Haunted Campfire Tales Live. Welcome. Gather around the fire. Get comfortable, but not too comfortable. The true ghost tales are about to unfold.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. And this is one of our co-hosts, Les. His wife, Beth, will be on at about 8 o'clock.
Hi, Les.
And Jesse, who's a member of our team, and Bob Long.
Hi, Jess. Hi, Bob.
Who I think, if you remember from our other podcast, wrote this book, which you can still buy. It's called Alien Abduction, The Control Factor, Jim Bach and Robert Long, authors. And if you haven't seen that episode, that's episode 17, and you can find it on Indie Book Source, and you can either listen to it while you're driving to work, or you can watch it, the video.
Yeah, on YouTube, Meet the Author podcast.
Or, you can watch it there, too. Yeah. We already have 5 comments. Let's see. George Dismuked. Hey, George.
Hey, George.
Let's get it on. All right, let's get it on.
All right.
Let's go.
Okay.
Sound like a Texan.
Facebook user. All right. Hello, Tampa Bay Spirits. Let me run this banner for you.
Yeah, if you're watching on the group page, then...
For those watching on the Tampa Bay Spirits Facebook group page, if you want to make comments, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com/Facebook.
Or put your name in the comment, because otherwise you come back as Facebook user.
But then we won't know who they are every time. You'll have to put your name in the...
Every time.
Every time. So
exactly.
That might get boring.
Hello, everyone. Hi, strangers.
Okay. So...
Lots of Facebook users.
Facebook user says hello, everyone. Facebook user says hi, strangers. Oh, this Facebook user said that was an awesome episode, the one that that Bob and Jim were on, and it was.
Yeah. And Lisa O'Hare.
Yeah. And Joy York said,
Joy.
Hi, Joan and Rob, and hi, everyone.
Hi, Joy.
Joy's on our panel, and she couldn't make it tonight due to a prior commitment, and that's totally cool that she's able to make it at all.
Yes. Yes.
Happy to see you in the comments.
I know. We miss her, don't we? Mm-hmm. So Beth will be in around 8 o'clock, and she'll do the card pull then. And for now, I think Jessie has some stuff she'd like to share with us.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to kick us off then, huh?
Yeah. Believe it or not.
All right. So today we had votes in our poll to talk about UFO encounters, all things aliens, UFOs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. So that is a massive topic that I could never encapsulate in one tiny podcast segment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip our toe into, yeah, Paul, we can see you now. I saw Paul's comment there, but we're going to dip our toe into a few famous UFO encounters just to take a look at history of UFOs in the world. So in documented cases in history, I would be remiss if I did not start off with one of the most famous encounters in
Hold on
the
just
world.
a second. Joe Conchal,
Sure.
am I on the right side? It's Joe Conchal. Yeah, you can be on that site. You'll just have to say your name every time, Joe. We're glad you're on. Otherwise,
I'm not sure they can hear you.
oh, can you hear me? You can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Cool.
My
All right.
goodness. So wait a minute, I just want to say, so Joe, if you want to be seen, then you have to give your name to be seen. You have to give your permission to StreamYard, because our Tampa Bay Spirits Facebook page is a group page. And hi, this is Cheryl from New Jersey, who moved to Allerton.
Oh, yeah.
That said,
Cheryl.
hi, strangers. Hi, Cheryl. We still have to get together sometime. Cheryl has Great Danes. Colleen would love to meet her. That's one of our other daughters. Okay.
Onward,
Sorry,
Jessie.
Jessie. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'll continue. What I was saying is, I'm not going to deep dive any of these stories. I'm going to give little summations. We're going to dip our toe into these cases. There is so much more info out there, and we'll include links that will be there later on the YouTube page in the notes, and on the Facebook page, to all sources. And if you want to deep dive these on your own, there's so much content out there for all of these cases. What I was about to say is, I would be remiss if I didn't start off and kick it off with one of the most well-known cases in history, certainly in the United States, but worldwide it became exceptionally well-known, which is the Roswell incident of 1947. A rancher named W.W. Mack Roswell came across a 200-yard field of wreckage, and what ended up occurring after that is there are conflicting statements. Okay, so but the next morning the newspapers reported off of a statement from the Roswell Army Airfield Public Information Officer Walter Haut initially, that they had recovered a disc, a flying disc that had been crashed. In seemingly a 180 or a backtrack, the next day in the papers, there was a statement from 8th Air Force Commanding General Roger Ramey, who stated, actually, it was a weather balloon. This has become sort of a trope in the UFO community, I would say. You know, that's what they're always telling you, right? Like, it's a weather balloon, and you're like, well, it didn't look like a weather balloon. So I feel like that's kind of where that trope kind of originated. Now, the general public at that time, I feel like, generally accepted this, right? It was like, oh, case closed. Okay, it was a mistake. We're moving on. It kind of simmered in the back, on the back burner, and UFO enthusiasts and ufologists at the time, of course, kind of had it there in the background. But starting then, and actually just before then, there was a case in 1947 as well of a famous UFO sighting. But the point is, the cases from there kind of took off, right? Reports started happening more and more frequently. And this case was largely, swept under the rug, right? Didn't make a huge commotion necessarily until about 30 years later in 1978, when a physicist and ufologist, Stanton Friedman, launched it back into the spotlight with an interview of Major Jesse Marcel, who was part of the cleanup and recovery effort in Roswell, and who came forward and said, that was not an air balloon, and I was there. It was not a weather balloon. I was there, and had a lot of information that he was willing to come forward with at the time. 50 years after the incident initially happened, the United States government, did claim that the wreckage was indeed part of a top secret atomic espionage project called Project Mogul. But in the meantime, since 1947, between when this case was launched back into the spotlight, meanwhile, people are still seeing things in the sky or having experiences and encounters themselves. So much so that an astronomer and UFO researcher named J. Allen Hynek created a categorization system to help organize these reports, right? And give them sort of a scale to base them on. Even if you weren't raised by my parents, who I was raised knowing all these stories, right? If you weren't, you probably are familiar at least a little bit or have heard of that scale because of the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The name of that movie came from this scale, right? So he came up with this way to rate the encounters that people were having. If you had observed an object in the sky, it was a close encounter of the first kind. If you had observed a close encounter of this, or if you had experienced some sort of physical interaction,
Evidence on the ground, right?
Or feeling like if you had some sort of physical bodily reaction, or your clock stopped working, or some sort of physical change happened as a result of the encounter, that was a close encounter of the second kind. And the close encounter of the third kind was seeing a being. Could be a robot, could be an humanoid, could be an alien, any sort of occupant of a craft. So these reports were coming in so frequently that, they were even needing to categorize them, right? One of these cases in 1964 was near Socorro, New Mexico. Police officer Lonnie Zamora reported that he saw two people standing near a shiny object that he later observed launch and take off into the sky, complete with flames. 1965, near Valenciennes, France, this guy sounds like the most French guy in the world. It was 5:45 a.m. He was a farmer. July 1st, 1965, and he was out smoking a cigarette near a lavender field, which all of this sounds so very French to me, but something came out of the sky and landed in this lavender field like 200 feet away from him. And he got annoyed because he's thinking a helicopter or something landed in his lavender field. So he walks over to see what's going on and has this encounter that he says these beings were outside and they were wearing these jumpsuits and they were making these grunting sounds and looking at plants, and they pointed a cylindrical or tube-like, or I saw it described as pencil-like object at him, and he was immobilized and not able to move. And for about 20 minutes, he watched them. They got on their plane. He was not able to move, and they took off. There was physical evidence in the lavender field where there was a large indentation. The crops around where this craft had landed died. Things wouldn't grow there. And this had a big impact on him. The local authorities that investigated it at the time, everybody respected him as a farmer and as a community member, and they believed he experienced something, and it really impacted him. He's told his family, this land is sacred and we need to keep it in our family forever. So had a big impact on him and his family. Also in 1965, Kecksburg, just kind of a little bit outside of Pittsburgh, a fireball was seen. It was actually seen across 6 different states in the United States, and apparently crashed somewhere in the Kecksburg area in the woods. We don't know what it was. The U.S. military went out and searched the woods and, quote unquote, found absolutely nothing, was the quote. The residents there experienced something, right? There was smoke. Some people reported buildings shaking, things like that. It was seen across 6 different states. Was it a meteor? Was it a satellite? Some people were claiming it was a piece of Russian satellite. Very strange.
I have one comment to make about that. So if they found nothing, what was it that they hauled away on a flatbed truck?
A large nothing.
A large nothing. About the size of a Beetle Volkswagen, if I'm remembering correctly. Connie Cleary says, I remember hearing that ages ago. Yes, because when was that, Jesse? In the 60s?
65.
65?
1965, yeah.
Yeah. And Joe Conjal had said earlier, I've had a close encounter of the nun kind, but I'd like to at least see one in the sky before I die.
Careful what you wish for.
That's what
I
you
know,
told.
I knew you would say that.
I knew that's what you told Jim, right? When you were out investigating. And
Good
he
memory.
said,
Yeah. Jim was always saying that. I wish one would fly right over top of our head. No, you don't.
No,
You don't.
thank you. No.
And if it does, I'm leaving. You're on your own.
Because
Yeah, right. We won't run for ghosts, but for
right,
we see any beings,
right.
pointing tubes at us, I'm out.
Joe Conjal says only the ignorance of men would allow us to claim the vast universe all to ourselves. No way we're alone. Right?
No, absolutely not.
Very true.
Yeah, you're right.
Very true.
Go ahead, Jesse. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that just
You're fine.
burns my chaps. It's like, are you kidding me? Anyway, go ahead.
Another case that I find really, really interesting, really compelling, happened in 1994. This was September 16th. It was outside Rua, Zimbabwe, at the aerial school. There were 69 students that were outside, and they said the staff was inside. So the teachers, the adults were inside having meetings. The children were outside. The children, many of them, not all of them, but many of them reported that they saw one or more crafts come down, land in a field nearby, that beings came off of the crafts and came over to them, and telepathically communicated with them and gave them messages. Sounds like most of the messages were like of an environmental nature, like about messages about our environment and our planet and
Stop
the
what we
danger
were doing.
that it was in. Yeah. And
to stop our technology.
Obviously scared the kids, the kids
Which
went
sounds
inside.
pretty suspicious to me, by the way.
Yeah.
Stop all your technology.
Yeah. No. The kids went inside and told their teachers, and the teachers and the staff kind of dismissed them. But the kids went home and then told their parents, and can you imagine your kids coming home and being like, this happened at school, and the teachers were upset. I mean, the parents were upset. They went to the school, and there is a really great documentary, or if you want to do a deep dive on the aerial phenomenon, there's a new documentary called Aerial Phenomenon, and it's spelled Ariel like the Little Mermaid, Ariel Phenomenon. That was the name of the school, and they actually interview some of the students now who are adults. Some of the students now are still deeply affected by it and have used it to make art, things like that. I meant to say also, we're going to share links for all of these things and sources where I've gotten information. But I did want to mention, if you want a really good deep dive on the Roswell incident, a podcast that I love called Bigfoot Collectors Club did a phenomenal 3-part series. It is fun and entertaining, and really wonderfully researched. And those are episodes 124 through 126 of their podcast. And I highly recommend giving that a listen. And then we have like up through today, right? We've got everything that has been happening with the United States government in the past several years. 2017, there was a story in the New York Times with videos that were, I guess you would say they were leaked from United States Navy pilots who have said they've had encounters with unidentified flying objects or unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs, as our government now likes to rebrand them as. But there have been several reports now from our government saying, yeah, UFOs, UAPs, they're real. They're not saying that, oh, they're extraterrestrial, but there is some sort of phenomenon people are experiencing that we don't know what it is. I know on one of the most recent reports, they looked into 500 incidents. They say that they were able to explain or dismiss all but 171 of them, which is still a heck ton of incidents that they were not able to explain. The operation of the crafts, the way they maneuver, it's nothing that our government or any other government that we are aware of, it's not any of the technology that we know to be true.
Exactly.
Another really awesome thing about looking into UFOs or this phenomenon is that it goes so much farther back than that, right? So I kicked it off talking about Roswell because that's a really popular case that many, many people know. It's in the zeitgeist, if you will. Like, you know, people know about it, even if they're not into UFOs a lot of the time. But going way back in many, many cultures across the world, you will encounter stories about objects coming from the sky, or there will be even paintings or depictions in artwork of what looks to be something coming down from the sky, right? And you could, you know, people debate what those are representations of. Of course, it could be religious representation of deities and all these things, right? But we don't know, right? I found a really, really cool story. I mean, one of my favorite things that I've seen is from Japan. They have a phenomenon that they refer to as Utsurobune, which means, it translates to hollow ship. And there are a lot of stories in Japan that refer to these hollow ship, Utsurobune. But one story from 1803 stands out. If you look it up, and we'll link to this, but there's this painting of what looks like a classic flying saucer. And you know, when you think of UFO or flying saucer, that classic shape, like on your poster back there, Mom and Dad. The story goes that this vessel appeared from the ocean, actually, And this was in 1803. It was a time when Japan was very closed off. There are no historical records of any ships crashing from other countries or anything like that. And certainly there would have been at that time because of the state of the Japanese government at the time and how very closed off they were. So she arrived in this woman comes off of this ship that had characters on the side that they could not interpret or understand, and she was a beautiful woman and had a box that she was holding. So, and that was 1803, right? So that's well before that was like in pop culture to put that out there that, you know, UFOs were not popular. They weren't on like people's shirts or mugs at the time, right? So,
or lawn ornaments on their front yard.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome to look back through history too and see that people have been experiencing something for as long as we've had record of things, right?
And oral histories before we had records.
Right. Yes, and many indigenous cultures and things like that, there are stories, right? So that's
what I like
pretty
about
much
that Utsuro Bune, it was in 1803, was that she didn't look like them. Everybody said that's how the legend goes. She didn't look like anybody else there, and she didn't speak Japanese.
No, she did not. They couldn't communicate with her, and there was writing on the side of the craft, and they could not interpret it.
And then they made her get back in the ship, and she left because they didn't trust her. So it's one of my favorite stories too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so, I mean, that was pretty much me just giving you a whirlwind little tour through history of some famous cases that I wanted to touch on. We could spend hours talking about any one of these, I'm sure, but yeah. Does anybody have like personal stories that they want to share or encounters?
Well, George
questions?
did. He had a close encounter with one that called herself Deborah. That was George's third wife.
Third wife, yeah. Totally alienated now.
Yeah.
Why don't, hey Bob, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background for the people that don't know you?
Oh, okay. I became interested in UFOs as a kid, and you know, I remember getting the book Incident at Exeter, and reading that, and being, you know, well, frankly, it kind of scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. But I became very interested in this stuff, and then that kind of died down for a while. And I think it was originally when Whitley Strieber came out with his book Communion, and it had the head of the alien on the cover, and it had such an unusual effect on people that really got me thinking. Yeah, like that guy. But you know, and about the same time, Bud Hopkins started writing books about alien abduction, and it all kind of started I started to get really involved with stuff like that, to the point where I was spending about 20 hours a week directly involved with investigating and reading and studying everything I could find about alien abduction itself, because that was my interest in it. In later years, I got to be part of MUFON. I was assistant state director for a decade for New York State, and I was also a member of Intruders Foundation. I was the MUFON liaison for Bud Hopkins Group. But you know, it's been an interesting ride, because I've gotten to meet a lot of people over the years who had personal experiences, including Betty Hill, who's now passed, but she was one of our guest people. We had the 2002 MUFON symposium, and she was our guest speaker. And way back then, gosh,
And you know
decades
her,
ago.
yeah, that we're all
That's
ancient.
wild.
You know, Catherine, right? Isn't that her niece? Didn't she write
Yes,
forward
yes,
to your book?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's had encounters herself, which I didn't know until recently.
You see that happen more and more. You know, there's a lot of people that have a very deep interest in this stuff, and over the years, more and more of them have come out after the fact that why, yes, they did have some type of a personal experience, or they've had an encounter,
Yep.
and nothing piques your interest like seeing something you can't believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had a number of UFO sightings over the years, and like the one gentleman there was talking about, he'd like to see one before he dies. Well, you keep looking up.
Keep looking.
You just
Yeah.
just keep looking up. You sooner or later you will. But I've probably had 9 or 10 sightings over the years,
Wow.
That's awesome.
and it's just because I'm interested in it. I'm always looking, and if you pay attention, sooner or later you're going to see something that you can't explain. And there's been a couple instances where I had them interact with me.
Oh,
I think,
really?
yeah, I think I may have told you this story last time when you had me on. A number of years ago, I was in my backyard, and there's a large field out in back of my house, and a wood area behind it. And back through there is also some high tension power lines. Anyway, this was after dark, and I saw a very large light at treetop level, and my first thought was it was a helicopter with a spotlight on it, but there was absolutely no sound, and it appeared to be about 300 yards away because the wooded area is 300 yards from my house. And I'm looking at this thing, and in my mind I'm thinking, what are you? It just hanging right at the treetop. It's very bright light, and it's just not doing anything. And as I was thinking, I wish this thing would do something. And right about then, it sat there and started this falling leaf motion back and forth.
After
It,
you thought that.
Pardon? Yeah, after I
After you
thought that.
thought that.
At which point I freaked out, ran in the house to grab both my wife and the camcorder at the time. And of course, I came back out, and it was gone. And but it was, and you'll hear all kinds of stories when people start talking about close encounters and like that, where they saw a light in the sky, and they had a thought, or they felt some type of communications, and it did something in relationship to them.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And anybody who has any type of how do I want to put this? I hate using the phrase psychics, but anybody that's gifted, they have some type of abilities. I know Jess is grinning over there. It's very easily to connect when people are more intuitive. I'll give you an example. If you've ever been to one of the MUFON symposiums, every year they have a scientific symposium somewhere in cross country, and they'll have a number of high-profile guest speakers, and you get a lot of people coming to these symposiums, and you'll also get a very large amount of people who have had personal experiences. And after hours was always my favorite time to be at the symposium, because you would get 2 or 3 rooms full of the abductees all together and partying and stuff like that, comparing stories. And being an abduction researcher, I usually got invited to those parties, which was really, really interesting. You got to hear all the stuff that you didn't hear normally. But one of the things that I found out is that everybody who had been abducted had some type of a gift. Rather, it was clairvoyance or telepathy, or they could see auras, or whatever the case may be. And up until that point, I had thrown most of that stuff in kind of a neutral bag. I didn't really pay much attention to it because it at least I didn't think it had anything to do with UFOs or abduction. But then later on, when I purposely started asking people during the investigations and like that, it came out that everybody who I talked to that had some type of close encounter had some type of gift. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're gifted in some way, that's going to make you an abductee. That's not how it works. But what happens is everyone who is abducted has some type of a special mental acuity, a gift, a sixth sense, if you will.
I've heard that before. It's funny because Joe Conchel had said, are there some kind of special traits a human may have over another that makes an alien choose them to interact with? So
that is absolutely
one of those gifts.
Yeah, that is absolutely it. And a lot of it has to do with the abduction process. If someone is gifted, and it makes them much more open to the control and suggestion, as we mentioned in the book that Jim and I wrote, the alien abduction, the control factor. Their power over you to get inside your head, make you think things, make you see things, make you hear things in some instances. Suggests that you go downstairs, walk out in the yard, and get scooped up by a UFO for a while. Would you normally do this in your awakened state? Probably
Hard
not.
pass. Mm-hmm.
Just talked about them pointing a pencil-like device at the person and having them become paralyzed. A number of years ago, I stumbled across this, talking with people about their initial experiences when they're coming to an abduction, and they find themselves with some type of a paralysis where they can't move at all except their eyes. They can move their eyes. They can't move their muscles or anything, and it has everything to do with our brains, and when our brains shut off the ability for us to be able to move when we dream. When you're dreaming that you're running full bore or you're falling off a cliff, well, it's a good idea to not be doing that in real life, obviously. So your mind paralyzes you. It doesn't let you act out. The motor nerves are shut down, not your autonomic ones. Obviously, your heart still keeps beating and you keep breathing, but as far as acting out, your muscles are frozen. I believe that these creatures, whatever they are, aliens, they've tapped into our system. They found a way to shut us down. That's why people who are experiencing an abduction are also experiencing physically the same type of thing as when someone goes into REM sleep. In REM sleep, your body is paralyzed with the exception of your eyes. You can move your eyes around, rapid eye movement, and so they've kind of used our own brain against us, and it all falls into the people who do have a sixth sense or some type of special acuities like that are also the ones that are prime choice to abduct, because I think they have the genetic makeup that these creatures are looking for. And because of their genetic makeup, it also makes them a much easier target. Over the years, I find that occasionally somebody gets scooped up by accident. They're in the wrong place, the wrong time. I know at least a couple of cases they were drunk at the time, and I guess the aliens found out that when a person is drunk, they have very little control over them after they suck them up into the craft.
Whoa.
And they decide to dump them along the road anywhere.
Wow.
Wow, that's a cautionary tale to not get,
No kidding.
Well,
Right?
get drunk. Holy cow. Oh my
Sorry if I
God.
was coughing in everybody's ears. I thought I had myself muted.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
You mentioned MUFON early on, and
Yeah.
some people may not know what that is. Could you tell us a little bit about MUFON?
Mutual UFO Network was the largest investigative organization for the study of UFOs on Earth.
Mhm.
Its membership goes up and down, but at one time they had about 5,000 members, and 2/3 of those members were master's degree and above. So generally very highly educated people that believe in UFOs, and also had the technology in the background to do some investigating into them. MUFON's been around since I believe it's 1969.
Yeah.
And it's a great organization. I haven't been a part of it in a while, but then again, I haven't been in the mainstream of this as a while. I've had other things going on in my life. But
Would you recommend anybody that sees anything unusual to contact MUFON?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Contact MUFON. They have an excellent website. You can report your sightings. Someone will contact you back. They will assign an investigator to your sighting, and depending on if it's it's a sight. I don't want to say just a sighting. Yeah, it's 300 feet above my head. It was right there. It's just a sighting. No, as compared to an abduction or something like that. But yeah, absolutely. Contact MUFON. You can sign up to become an investigator, take a course, and really get involved if that's something you'd like to do.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Well,
Sounds like something Jess ought to do from the sounds of it.
he would be a good investigator. We never said hello to Beth. Beth came in while we were while Jesse was talking. And Beth,
the work thing.
and Beth usually does a card pull. Would you like to do it now, Beth?
Sure, we can do that.
All right. And then we'll finish talking. And also someone said, and it may be Cheryl, but yeah, maybe being drunk is a good thing in that case. Oh yeah. And then Joe Conjal said, that's too bad. Some dreams might be fun to act out. Well, we don't need to hear about your dreams, Joe.
Pick one. Les is going to draw a card this time.
Ooh,
Okay.
Okay.
Ah, let's see.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, this one just says laugh. So
That's me.
Les needs to lighten up a little bit and have some fun. I'm sure that can resonate with a lot of us.
Yes.
How much
Yeah.
more fun could we have?
That's right. We always have fun on a
What Bob
podcast.
said earlier,
Yeah.
Been so fun in these here United States recently.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, if
Go
anyone
ahead, Mom.
listening's had any UFO stories, it'd be really great to hear
Jesse's
them.
chomping at the bit.
And I don't think she is
Okay.
at all. No,
No?
I don't know.
No, but I was gonna say MUFON just emailed me about my report.
That's what I meant.
'Cause I
Good. Good. So go ahead and tell everybody what you saw.
as we were speaking.
Oh,
So
really?
this was yes, really. So March 1st of this year, so just like a month and a half ago, we went home from St. Pete, Florida. We live in Plant City. and we were on the interstate, and my husband was driving, and it's important to know that he's an airplane enthusiast. Like, he, as a kid, ever since he was a little kid, he loved airplanes. So he knows, he can look at it and tell you what it is and what kind of engine it has, and he knows all the things. Like, you know,
He can tell by just listening to them.
He can.
So
He'll be in the house, no joke, and he'll hear an engine, and he'll say to us, "Oh, that's such and so," and
we'll
you
like,
go out and
so,
look, and
like Whitney Pratt, whatever. Yeah.
I know, and you're like, you go outside, and you're
That's
like,
the kind
"Dang,
of-
he's right."
Yeah,
So he knows your aircraft.
Loves them. We've been to many air shows, you know. So anyway, he was driving, and he said, "What is that in the sky?" And I kind of dismissed it, and I was like, "It's just a plane," you know. And he's like,
It's on the road.
"That's not a plane, right?" And he's like, that's not how their lights work, you know. And I'm like, I think it's just a plane. I think it's just a weird angle. And he's like, it's not moving. It's not a plane. What is that? And he's like, it's got these lights. They're crazy lights on it. So then as we're approaching, I'm looking at it, and our two kids are in the back seat. And I was like, huh, he's right. And as we approached, and we ended up, it was not moving. It was silent. It was not moving. It was dark, like black or dark gray. And it was shaped like a triangle, but all sides flat. So like flat on the top and flat on the bottom with flat sides, and perfect triangle. There weren't any propulsion systems, like no propellers that I could see, no exhaust or anything, completely silent. And it was hovering directly above the interstate. And we drove under it, and we had a sunroof that was open. So I was looking at it going, like, you know, when you're trying to make sense of something with your brain, you know, and you're like, I'm trying to see the plane that's not there, you know. And so the two sides of this thing had flat panels that were lights, and they lit up in a pattern. So they would go out, 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 like, and then back in. So they would go from the middle point all the way to the outside points, and then back in. Very bright. And my son was looking at it too, and he was like, those lights are flat. Like, it wasn't like a light bulb, or like, you know, like a headlight, you know, lamp situation. It was a flat panel. And they were really, really bright, and they were white and red and like a blue-green. And it didn't make a sound. And we just drove under it, and I thought, this is really weird. And it was especially weird because when we had been at our friend's house, who we were on our way home from, we had talked to them about UFOs for some reason. We had never talked to them about that, like, before. And like, I don't even remember how it came up, but somebody mentioned something about UFOs, and what do you think about that? And I was like, oh yeah, I think that's a thing, you know. And I've never seen one before, you know, but like, I believe that they're a real thing, and I know people that have seen things.
Joe Conchel said, "Did you take a picture?"
Joe, I'm kicking myself. I didn't take a picture, and it was that thing where I was just, I was really just trying to make sense of it in my head, what I was looking at, you know, like, I was so trying to, like, explain it as something that I knew what it was. So I was really trying to look at it and go, it's a helicopter, it's a XY, you know, it's like an airplane somehow. How would it be?
It's a drone.
I don't know. Yeah, or it's a drone. I was Googling drones as soon as we got under it, and trying to find something that looked anything like that. Is it possible
And it was that
it's
big, by the way.
and that big? Yeah, yeah, sure.
How big did you think it was?
My husband and I were talking about that last night, and it was hard. It's hard to judge, right? But both of us think, like somewhere around the size of this room, right, that I'm in. So like, I think on the MUFON site, it gave you like a range to choose from, and it was like 4 to 10 feet or 10 to 30 feet, and I did like, or 11 to 30 feet, and I did like 11 to 30 feet because it was somewhere in that range. So not a huge craft or object or anything.
But not small
But-
either.
You were
No.
you were looking up through the sunroof at this?
We went directly underneath it.
Okay. Could you see the whole object through the sunroof?
Yes, yeah. It wasn't like it was several hundred feet.
Do you think maybe it was cloud level?
It would be. I mean, I feel
That's
like low
several
clouds.
thousand feet.
Elevation is really hard to tell,
It is
Yeah.
very hard.
especially at night.
It
Yes,
can make a difference on how big it really is. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
that's what Adam and I, my husband, we were both talking about that yesterday when I was like, talking to him about it. And I was like, how big do you think it was? And we were both answering the same way. Like I had my answer in my head, and then he was like, I think it was this, and he was like, I think it was like, he's like, it's so hard to tell. It was night, but we both kind of landed on like that 200-300 feet
Jess,
elevation, maybe.
do you think most people wouldn't have noticed it? Was it that dark?
It was dark, but they were bright lights. Like the lights were very, very bright.
Paul Hollis says
Most
that's
people
how-
don't look up.
Well,
that's
true.
that's true.
Especially if they're driving their cars on the interstate.
Paul,
you're
but
looking down.
Adam did.
Adam
He
did,
saw it.
yeah.
Paul Hollis said that's how abductees are really selected, people without cameras. But I say
I think
like
that's pretty common.
mother
Yeah.
like daughter, because when I saw that UFO that I told you about, that I had just seen just shortly before you were on our other podcast, Bob, I was holding my cell phone.
Hmm?
And
Yeah, so was I.
And you were
And
trying
I
to make
didn't-
sense of it. Yeah.
I hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
And
I didn't take a picture. I don't know how you didn't think about it. I was looking at a UFO.
And then I'm like, so growing up, like in the house that I grew up in, I'm like checking the time, like the whole time. I'm like, did we lose any time? Like, did I get
Very
home at
good,
the time
very
I was supposed to?
We've
I'm like,
trained them
I'm
well.
I'm like looking all around us when
We forgot to tell you to take a picture.
Well, yeah, I can't.
Well, I forgot
Can't be
to
perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
You know,
and everyone
everybody's
in
got
our
these wonderful
family,
cameras, and we still don't get any pictures.
and
This-
everyone in our family are empaths, just about every single person. So, but Marjorie Deering had a sighting. So let's read that. My UFO experience happened 67 years ago. Lights blinking sequentially over a very large utility garage 75 yards from my brother and me. Absolutely no sound. In the blink of an eye, it went from there to a spot a mile away over a gravel pit, then back again the same way several seconds later. There's more to the story, but I'd wear my fingers to the nub typing the rest. We'll have to have you come on, Marjorie, and tell
Yeah.
us.
for
Hey,
sure.
but that's so cool because that sounds so similar. Completely silent,
Yeah,
lights flashing in a pattern.
yeah,
What is that?
yeah. Joe Conjal said maybe they abducted you and then put you back at the same time.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
So comforting.
So, Bob, you've been in the investigation business for umpteen years, and do you have any favorite or outstanding stories that you would like to share with us?
Well,
that isn't going to scare us
It
all
isn't
to
going to
death?
scare the
No,
crap
go
out of
ahead,
us. No,
scare us.
this is haunted campfire tales.
Yeah,
so.
scare
Again,
us.
I think when I was on last time, I think I told you about people who have a visitation because they're out of place. They're not where they're supposed to be.
Yes.
One of the people I'd worked with had reason to be over in England. Didn't live there, but lived here in the United States, but had to go over to England on business, and had an experience, just a passing visitation in the hotel room. They were felt a presence there, and sure enough, they saw a gray, and the gray, they were more conscious, I think, than the gray thought they were going to be, and they screamed, and in their mind they felt like the gray screamed in a sense as well. um, and then it was over. Um, and I think it was a case of being out of place. If all abductees have some type of an implant, so they're tracked, I pictured some alien standing over a screen, tapping on the screen, going, "That's not right. She can't be there. That's another country. That's across all that water. She can't. She's supposed to be here. She's not over there. Well, we better go check it out." And so it was one of those instances where you weren't where you're supposed to be. And another instance of this I ran into at the some of the MUFON symposiums. I noticed that again, a lot of the abductees kind of hang together. I mean, it's really cool. It's like a family of people that don't know each other, and they act just like they've known each other for all their life. Anyway, a number of them will have issues where they wake up in the morning and the clock in the hotel is blinking. Like the power had gone off overnight.
Yeah.
And I happen to be sharing a room with an abductee at that symposium, and
now who did a stupid thing?
well, wrong place, wrong time. I don't know whose underwear they were, but you've heard those stories, right? People coming back from being abducted, and their clothing they're wearing isn't theirs.
Yep.
Yeah. More than one person was abducted at a time, and they got the clothes mixed up. Anyway, the light was blinking, and I was talking to the hotel staff. The maids were going around. I said, what time did the power failure go on last night? And she said, "Oh, we didn't have power failure." I said, "Well, the clock is blinking in the room, like, you unplugged it and plugged it back again." She goes, "Oh yeah, that happens all the time."
Ooh.
Really?
Don't want to stay at that hotel.
No. Check in.
Because I don't think abduction sounds like fun. Let me ask you a question. Do all abductees have some kind of an implant?
I couldn't tell you that. I don't know. There have been there's been I guess a considerable amount of investigation into implants, but it still tends to be rather inconclusive. People have sneezed them out of their nose. They've showed up on X-rays. They've showed up as a little unknown blop in the middle of their brain. You don't know. I think there's obviously some way they connect with you. It may be because you're genetically gifted. It's like having Wi-Fi. Biological Wi-Fi, and you just pick up on the stuff.
I got you.
But they tend to know if someone is out of place, someplace that they're not normally at. And of course, if you're at a symposium that's held at a big hotel, and you've got just say 100 abductees all in the same place from all around the country, it's probably really interesting to them that suddenly all these people are all in one place, so they go to investigate. But there have been sightings. So
We should do our cat balls.
Yeah, I was just Hey,
I
let's
know.
take a little break.
I
Can't
know
wait to see
that you,
this.
I know you've all been waiting because we always do a little tutorial on what we use in the field to investigate, not for UFOs. This is for ghost hunting. So
So
everybody
we'll
knows
take a little
that
break for
Les loves his cat balls.
yeah.
I feel like, who knows, extraterrestrials probably love cat balls too. So
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
We don't even have a cat.
I
Oh,
know.
we have cat balls.
We have. Okay,
All right,
we'll be
here we
right
go.
back.
We'll be right back.
Watch
folks.
this because it's interesting.
All right, everyone. Tonight we're going to talk about an inexpensive way to do your ghost hunting that most anybody can get started with. If you have maybe a cheap, or let's say inexpensive EVP recorder, EMF detector, and these, you can see they light up when touched. In the paranormal world now, they're called motion light balls. What they are basically is a cat toy. They're cat balls. And they stop blinking here in a minute. But anyway, they'll stop blinking, they'll set until they're touched or moved. Then they'll light up. Usually we'll set up a camera, try to put one in the room where these are. And if for some reason they start lighting up, then it's time to go back and figure out why they're lighting up. And you can use these with your EVPs by asking the entity or whatever to light the ball, to move the ball, to light up the second ball, whatever you need to do. And the only way they light up is when they're touched or moved. You can have a number of these, and the only way that they work is like that. They cost a little bit of nothing, but when they're just sitting in a room by themselves, maybe you have a camera that's dedicated to them, and they're touched or they roll, they will light up. Then it's time to figure out what's making them go off and what's not. So it's one really cheap, inexpensive way to have some fun, get into business, see what's going on. The only thing I caution is that you get these and you start having a little bit of fun, the more expensive stuff's going to come. And that's when it gets fun. Anyway, this is just a little thing that we use that we found with a totally different purpose, but fills our need for this type of there. All right, and that's about it. We appreciate it. Next time we'll have something a little more tech savvy. This is low tech, low cost. Well, have a good night.
That was
Thank you,
really
Les.
good. Thank you. Chanel
Loved it.
says, Jess, your hair is gorgeous.
Thank
Woohoo.
you.
This is all Chanel. Woohoo. I love the cat balls. My dog does too. And I got mine on Amazon 4 for $6. That's where we got ours.
That's
That's
right.
where we got ours.
Inexpensive.
Truly, truly a
tool.
bargain.
Yeah, it is.
Look out, ghosts, here we come.
You go online to buy them at the paranormal stores, they're $4.95 a piece.
Yeah, so don't do that.
Those paranormal people like that.
I tell you, see us coming.
Yes, 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 they
I
do.
have a question.
Okay.
Total newbie here when it comes to anything like aliens, UFOs, anything like that. So I was wondering, is this something that people see at night and during the day, or is it exclusively at night?
No, it's anytime.
Anytime?
Anytime, anywhere.
Okay.
People have been abducted from downtown Manhattan during the day.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And sometimes
The
it's harder
story-
to see the lights at night because you're expecting to see lights on airplanes
that's
and stars, you know,
Yeah.
and the moon and all that.
No, it's
Street lights. Oof.
that story in Zimbabwe that I mentioned earlier, Ariel School, that was during the day.
Oh, yeah.
Those kids were
Yeah.
outside
That's right.
on a break.
That's right. But from downtown Manhattan, you would think, how could they do that?
The one I saw back in 1970 was middle of the day or evening. It wasn't dark. It was bright light, and the one you saw.
The one I saw just
Georgia.
before we met
Yeah.
Bob was early in the
early
morning.
morning. Yeah.
And I was the only one that saw it, sitting beside him. He didn't see it. And that's when I found chapter 12. Let me see what the heading is, okay? Because I'm reading Bob's book because they're going to be on in a couple of days, right? And here's chapter 11. Sorry, don't mean to take up your time finding. What page is chapter 12 on? I know, Joan. Look and see. 116.
What the name of it was right there.
Oh, yeah. Duh. See, they wouldn't want to abduct me. Forget it. You don't need to abduct her. How come some people can see UFOs and some can't? I almost fell off my chair when I read that chapter, and I was like, how is that? And Bob explained that in the book that people that have, giftings like are empaths or something like that are the ones that they target, and that they can actually control their mind and they control the people around them so that they can decide, okay, this person's going to see it and the one right next to them isn't going to see it. Isn't that crazy? That's really crazy, I think. That's
It's so unfair.
So
it is. Go ahead.
You take a look at the life forms that are doing this to us and the technology that they have.
There you go.
Maybe we're not talking life forms that are 10 years ahead of us, 100 years ahead of us. Maybe they're 10,000 years ahead of us. And their technology is such that it seems just like impossible magic, but it's not. You obviously understand what's going on, and they
Just
do. They
just like
figured
our
this
cell
out.
phone, just like our cell phones would be to somebody from even George Washington's day, or
Right.
Would be
early
magic.
1900s would be magic.
Yeah. They'd be like, that's crazy. How
That's
can that
impossible.
happen?
All those
Marjorie-
cute doggy pictures.
Marjorie Deering said, the cat balls are interesting. It reminded me of something. Shortly after my brother-in-law died, my sister said her touch lamp occasionally turned on and off. I told her if it was Jim, that she had nothing to worry about. That's so true. And Chanel said, my grandpa was chased by one for 3 days, he claimed. He wasn't scared of it, just was annoyed. It kept following him. Not cat balls, no.
Not cat balls.
I thought you can't-
Really paranormal, wouldn't
That
it?
would-
A cat ball
that would be
chasing a guy.
annoying.
A UFO. I would have been terrified.
Especially if it was a big cat ball.
that was
Bob, Joe Conjal said, Bob, what are your thoughts on pictures from ancient times that show a UFO in the picture? How does the government explain that? Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
The pictures that always get me are the ones that show some type of a big-eyed creature with a helmet. In a cave painting. I thought, well, that's out there ways. It certainly looks like some type of a space creature, if you ask me. But I think they've been visiting for a long, long time. And when I say they, I mean you're talking a number of different species are visiting us. If you've ever looked at any of the deep space shots from Hubble, and of course now we have the new one that's going to give us even more impressive pictures. But the galaxy's a big place, and the universe is even bigger. And there's millions and millions and millions of planets out there that are capable of sustaining life of a variety of different types. And the universe has been going on a long time, so there's got to be a lot of species there. If you notice me shaking, it was my German Shepherd deciding she was going to itch herself right next to the chair.
It wasn't
here.
an earthquake then.
Yeah, no, it wasn't an earthquake.
Or a
But,
UFO trying
UFO.
to pick you up.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens. You laugh.
Yeah, you'll be laughing on the other side of your face, as my mother used to say.
We hear about many stories about the little grays with the big black almond-shaped eyes, and they're certainly the most common. And but we hear about the ones that look like praying mantis. We hear about ones
yes.
the Nordics that are tall and blonde and blue eyes and very good looking. The reptilian species that are very violent. I only ever worked with one person that had contact with a reptilian, and it was a horrible thing.
Yeah,
But
going on.
they're all. That's why some people report that it was a terrible experience, and some people report that it was a wonderful experience, an enlightening, experience. And of course, it has a lot to do with what type of person you are and what you want to believe or like to believe. But I mean, it's not necessarily like Star Trek where you've got all these species aboard the one ship and they all have the same mission. I think we're probably being visited by a lot of different species, and they have different ideas involved for us. Maybe they want to protect they want us to protect the environment because they really like this planet.
Well, I didn't.
Maybe
like
not
that
us,
they
but
said, stop your technology. I'm like, no, that doesn't sound like a plan.
That doesn't.
No, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
going.
like you did, yeah.
Nope. Yeah, like you did. So Chanel said her grandfather never said he was taken. And then she said, no one believed him for years until one night he and my dad were swiping deer at night. I'm not sure what swiping deer are, but that's not a country girl. And he saw the craft and it would blink at Grandpa's questions. That's a pretty common thing that people will interact with them and that they'll blink
right.
in answer to their
Did
questions.
you have a lot of reports like that?
Yes.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. People that they think to themselves, or they wish it would do this or do that, or I wish it would get closer, and suddenly it flies a mile and ends up over top of their head, and then they're changing their mind, but then it's too late.
Here's a good question. I'd like to know what you think about this too, Bob. What about the theory that Bigfoot is an extraterrestrial? Do you think that's a likely possibility? And by the way, Chanel says swiping deer is when you use a large spotlight to catch their eye reflection when you're hunting. And Joe Conjo said, well, maybe swiping deer is like keeping cows, but it is not. Anyway.
As far as Bigfoot, well, have you ever taken the family dog on vacation and you opened the door and the dog ran out the door?
Yes.
Yeah, well, maybe Bigfoot was their pet.
Bigfoot's the family dog. Well,
they couldn't find him, and that's how they ended up here.
They're just looking for their dog.
And he happens to look like Bigfoot.
But UFO encounters or phenomenon or sightings do coincide often with Bigfoot sightings. Yeah. So I don't know what the connection is.
Well, and actually that one guy on the Bigfoot encounter that you listened to, what is the name of that podcast again?
Bigfoot Collectors Club.
Okay. they have one of the guys on there has a show called Bigfoot Encounter, I think.
Expedition Bigfoot.
Thank you. I had nothing right. I blame it on my age. But they videotaped one time that they were standing behind this light source, and they were filming, and a shadow moved in front of them on across the river from them, across on the wall,
on the rock wall. Yeah.
but no one walked in front of the light.
And it looked like Bigfoot, right?
It looked like Bigfoot, yeah.
It had that same cadence and stride that he's known for.
So that's
They actually showed that.
different than just a big primate, right? I mean, that they could do that.
It was Chewbacca.
And Joe Conjal said Bigfoot could be an undiscovered species on our planet.
That's very true.
That's very
Very
true.
true.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's why when people are willing to believe other paranormal things and then get so funny about Bigfoot and they're like, no way. I'm like, that, I feel like that would be the most like, oh yeah, we discover new animals and species all the time on this planet. It's a big place.
Yeah, we really do. Yeah.
Yes. So it's not.
And they're obviously intelligent because they don't want us to find them.
Right. So it's less out there, in my opinion, to think that it would be something. Bigfoot could be, a thing, but.
Chanel said that's what her grandfather thought. Bigfoot was an escaped pet that was smart enough to get away from the aliens. Found a good place to live. That's
So,
funny.
Rob, I sent you a photograph from a friend of mine.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any way we can show it tonight, but
Where is it?
I sent it to his cell phone.
Oh, to the cell phone.
Oh, to the cell phone.
I don't know where
Yeah.
the cell phone is.
He doesn't know.
You have a share button. You have a share button down there if you want to try to share it that way.
Do you see your share button? Because you're on as co-host.
Yeah, I don't see a share button.
I think it says present.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do I put it on?
Is it on your
It's on my
computer?
phone. It's on my phone.
It's on your
Oh,
phone.
it's on your phone. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my phone and I'll.
Oh, and I can also just put it on the website later on the Facebook.
Yeah.
What is the
I was
pitch?
talking to my friend today and told her what our podcast topic was about, and she said, "Oh, I had this very strange experience that she never told me about before." And she was at her friend's condo in Madeira Beach, and rather high up, looking over the water. And she saw this series of lights that came rather close to her, and it was late. And I'm trying to pull the picture up right now. 1, 2, 3, 4 lights. And she said they moved to the left and they moved to the right. And she and her friend were both like, we don't know what that is. She felt enough fear that she was sliding down in her seat because she felt like she was being observed. Yes.
There you go.
So it moved to the left, moved to the
good.
right a few times. And then all of a sudden they took off extremely fast. Like there's no way a plane could take off that fast and do that hovering from left to right. So she was like, I think that was a UFO. I don't know, but I thought it was interesting that she was afraid of it enough that her instinct was to try to get away from it.
That's what I've heard a lot from people who
That's
have
really
had
good.
UFO experiences like that. That it's like they get the feeling that the light, even if it's just like that, where it's lights, that they're aware of them watching them. That they understand that they are also watching you while you're watching them. In other words,
Yes.
they get that you're observing them, and
Could be a
and
dust
it is
dust
a really,
storm, maybe.
I've heard a lot of people describe it as feeling really, yeah.
Well, that's what we
feeling
say
really
when we post
unsettling
on
like that, and
You've heard of abductees not remembering being abducted, right?
Mhm.
Well, yes.
Okay. I've found that a lot of abductees have a long history of involvement. Most of which they don't necessarily remember. They may have little flashes here and there, and that's usually when someone came to find me, that they were having just flashes of disturbing what they thought were memories or dreams or something. And it's very handy that they can control us to the point of wiping our short-term memory when there's an experience. People when they're abducted, they end up with this UFO door amnesia, that they remember the UFO. They might remember seeing a door or a beam of light, but after that they don't remember anything. Then they remember the UFO leaving, and it seems like it's rather seamless, that it just happened in a couple of minutes. How could have anything have happened? But there was actually a period of time, which could have been anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, where between when you were taken and when you were brought back. So anyway, there's a number of people who don't remember their encounter. Now, this does a couple of things. One, it makes them a whole lot easier to catch the second time. Then, then when somebody goes, "Oh, I don't like that light. I got a funny feeling about that light," that's your subconscious mind going, "Hey, dummy, don't you remember that?
Yeah.
That's the same thing you said last time."
Men in Black had one of those lights. Remember?
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
that's not saying your friend is an abductee, but that is something that someone that doesn't remember their experiences would react, because certain pieces and parts are still floating around in there. They're just not bringing them to
That
the
fear that she
unconscious.
had, she slid down in her chair. Huh?
Yeah. She had that instinctive fear for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's I've seen that many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Les, did you mention something else too? Or just that?
He was just mentioning Men in Black.
Oh, Men in Black.
All that light,
To erase your memory.
Yeah, the flashy thing.
Yeah.
My mind does that on its own.
Mine too. I hear ya.
they go to flash you, and they're like, "Nah, we're good."
Yeah, he ain't gonna remember anyway tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let him go.
Flashy thing, me.
Save your battery. You don't need it here.
Chanel said, maybe my cancer came from genetic studies by aliens. The oncologist says he doesn't understand how I got mine, since it's not in my family or very rarely in people of my age. So she said, so maybe. So yeah, that could be. She has bone cancer all throughout her whole body, and she's young.
Sorry to hear that, Chanel.
I know. We are too. Joe Conjal said, do you think a UFO has ever been mistaken for a shooting star? Yes, I do. What do you think, Bob? Though, let me ask the expert.
Yeah. If something is coming in very fast, it certainly looks like a shooting star. I've seen space junk burn up.
Yeah.
And look like a shooting star. There used to be a number of what was the name of those satellite system? It was for sat phones, and they had a glossy pyramid shaped antenna on them, and right after sunset, the sun would catch those the pyramid shaped antennas, and it would give you a streak across the sky from the sun reflecting off it. The name escapes me. Iridium satellite system, which
Chanel
I guess is now defunct.
I love you, Rob and Joan. We love you too, Chanel. Yeah. Chanel also says, Beth, that she's going to come and visit me when she passes. I told her she can.
Yes, absolutely. That's cool.
Yeah, you can go see Beth too. She could see you and hear you too.
We'll get our recorders out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
You'll have to-
cat balls.
And the cat balls.
And the cat ball.
Now she knows how to use them.
Yeah,
Yes.
cat ball floating across the room.
Yeah, there you go.
Hmm.
That would be really
Hmm.
good proof.
Now, we've not seen that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, I'd be going at that point.
I don't
I'm
think
right
you
in
would.
there.
I know Les wouldn't be going anywhere. He'd be there filming it, going
You can't
Holy
fool
cow.
us.
or louder language. Chanel said goals. No, Chanel, that is not your goal. Your goal is to stay here on planet Earth for a long time. That's your goal. Healing.
Well, I am with Bob. What you said earlier about. No, I'm good with my close encounter of the first kind. I'm good. I've had the one. I'm done. I'm good. Thank you. Very
One and
nice.
done. Yeah.
I'm good.
I've heard way too many experiences to want to partake.
Yes,
Oh,
I agree.
Yeah.
I
no.
don't want any more interaction than that. That was fine.
Although
Very
although
pleasant.
now that you've seen something, doesn't it really give you a spark to know more?
I would even be happy if somebody was like, I know exactly what that was, and that was this thing that is like a tech from our planet. Like I just
It'd be nice to know what it is.
Mhm.
would be nice. Yeah, I don't. Either way, it was. I have no idea. I've never seen anything like that. And then when I started looking into it and found articles about exactly that happening to other people over interstates, like it's like a thing, for
Mhm.
years.
Well, why didn't anybody else see it?
That's
Yeah.
see, that's the thing. And I
Well,
think
that's
it's
what
for the reason that we said.
Well, how many
We
saw it and dismissed
gifted.
it as an aircraft?
That
Right,
that
and-
Yeah.
we looked to see if anything had been like reported, if there was like Adam was checking the next day, like was anything, were people talking about anything, was there anything going on or that we would be able to figure out, or people reporting things, and nothing.
Well,
well,
that's
you
what-
know, when we had dropped Jessie off and her brother one time to go to a concert, Rob and I, and he was a working air traffic controller at the time, not a retired one. And we both, when we were driving away from where we had dropped them off, we both saw these two huge lights blink on
One at a time.
one at a time, one on, and then a couple of seconds later, the second one beside it came on, just like popped into existence, right? And Rob's saying, "Oh, now wait a minute. There's nothing taking off today. Cape Canaveral." He's gone through his brain like, "What the heck is going on?" And then they blinked off. The first one blinked out, and then the second one blinked out. However, on Entertainment Tonight, the next night, I think, or something like that.
No, we saw it on Saturday, and
Yeah.
It was Monday night
Okay, on
on TV.
people had filmed it.
Well, I saw it on the TV, and I go,
That's
wait a minute,
what we
look,
saw.
that's what we saw. And they were reporting it, and they had seen it down in Fort Myers, which was, a good 2-hour drive
Yeah,
from where we saw it,
yeah.
at a different angle.
And they said people
did
in
the same
North
thing.
Carolina, from North Carolina down to the Keys and all the way out to Bermuda
Bermuda
had
had
seen
reported it.
Wow.
it. And we saw it.
So what was it?
I don't know.
We have no idea.
Well, you reported your sighting to MUFON.
We did
Okay.
not.
Not that we didn't that one.
We didn't, but
Oh,
I think
okay.
like almost 3,000 people did. I reported my silver, cigar-shaped one. I finally
Okay.
reported that.
You can look into like the UFO Reporting Center or the MUFON archives, and you can see if other people reported the same type of thing in the same, area.
Around the same time at the same day.
Yeah. And of course, that's what the investigators look for too, is multiple reports of a sighting.
Chanel
But I
says
mean, there's a lot of information out there.
there is.
Yeah, between MUFON and the UFO Reporting Center.
Yes, the UFO
Yeah.
Reporting Center has a lot of good stuff in it. I found out.
Yeah.
Chanel said, "Ghosts don't scare me; aliens do." I'm with you. I agree 100%. And since moving into the country out of a major city, I can see the night sky so much better. Another thing I wanted to bring up is so many people that were abductees that I've heard say, I heard screaming, and then I realized it was me. And so they didn't even realize they were screaming. So to me, that doesn't sound like you want to be abducted.
No.
No.
We'll skip on that one.
Yeah. And then this one guy said that he was hearing screaming, and the alien bent down and said, "What can we do to help you to stop screaming?" And he realized it was him. And I'm thinking, quit probing me and put me back where I belong.
Yeah, put me back.
Yeah, that to me would
I
be
gotta
the
go to
ultimate.
work in the morning.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, Jessie's still trying to prove to herself that that was not actually a UFO, but was of something of this earth, and she just would like someone to explain it to her.
Well, you said that your husband was very interested in aircraft, and he could identify many types of aircraft, right?
Yep.
And he didn't identify this as any type of aircraft that he was familiar with. Now,
No.
looking at it from an investigator's perspective, it could have been another type of aircraft that he was unfamiliar with,
Mhm.
like a UFO. But when you become an investigator for MUFON, you're called out. Obviously, when somebody reports something, I've been called out to have people show me the planet Venus rising.
Right.
And aircraft. Most aircraft have blinking lights. They have a
Yes.
a green blinking light on the right side and a red blinking light on the left side, and that's standard FAA protocol.
Yeah.
Right. And from different angles and different altitudes, sometimes you can't see the lights as well as you can because of your perspective.
Right.
So sometimes you might see something that it might not look like it's even blinking. You know what I mean?
But if you
Right.
watch long enough,
Well, you
can
watch long
see it.
enough, you'll
and that's
see.
what we
Yeah.
do, because we go out and we look for UFOs all the time. And so that's what we do. We'll see something and we'll go, "Oh, what is that?" And we'll watch it and we'll watch it, and then eventually it'll move to a place where you can see the lights are blinking, or it'll get close enough that you can hear the sound, and it's just a plane.
Sometimes the sound doesn't catch up with
So
it.
Chanel said, "So I missed the beginning of the show. Have Jessie and Bob both been abducted?" No,
Oh.
Not that I'm aware of.
Bob
Same.
wrote this book. Okay, it says Alien Abduction: The Control Factor. He's been investigating UFOs since the 1980s. His specialty is abductees. And if you want to listen to him when he was on our other show, the Meet the Author podcast, it's episode 17. And you can hear him talk about all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's who Jessie's our daughter. Bob's our
No, there's
friend.
not.
And she doesn't want to be abducted either.
No.
No, thank you.
But
Do you hear that?
I am sending that message. Leave me
Making it
alone.
perfectly clear. No, thank you.
Going back just for,
This
Right.
is what Joke Angel says. That's a yes for Jess. She can keep telling herself that the triangle left her alone. LOL. And did I say Jessie's our daughter, Chanel? I maybe didn't mention
did.
that, Jessie. Okay. So, Jessie, what I want to say to you, though, is that triangle that you described I've seen so many people draw pictures of that with the flat side that you saw, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And a flat top and a flat bottom. I mean,
Yeah,
a
it's
lot
all-
of various people all over the country that don't know each other have drawn that same one.
The military is also working on a triangular lifting body too.
Is your book still for sale on Amazon?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. I bought it, Chanel. It's
called
really interesting.
Alien Abduction: The Control Factor.
Alien Abduction: The Control Factor by Jim Buck, Bouck, and Robert
Buck.
Long. Yep, and it's really good, and it's an easy read, but it's very well written. And the niece of
Has some
Barney
humor
and
in
Betty
it too.
Hill wrote the foreword. Pardon me?
Yeah,
Has
there's
some humor in it too.
Yeah, there is. There is. I remember. So these guys are funny too.
I know. Jimmy
Top
Buck.
10 reasons you or signs you may have been abducted. Yeah.
Yes, there is. I remember. That is a chapter.
I don't remember them off the top of my head, but it's rather humorous.
Yeah, it is a very funny chapter. It's
But there's a lot of deep.
Where
Do you wake up to blinking clocks in hotels?
Say what?
Do you wake up to blinking clocks in hotels?
Yeah, there's
Have
one.
you had any?
One. Yeah. Have you seen flashing lights outside of your window at night?
Could be the police, or it could be aliens.
Yeah.
I'm on the 14th floor.
Could be a police helicopter.
I don't see where it is in the book, but yeah, I remember reading that, and it was really funny. Top 10 reasons why you might have been abducted.
Yeah.
And I guess since all the abductees get together and party in a room, I don't think that they
Party may have been a bad choice of words, but they're they all
commiserate.
They
Right?
they all hang together just like family, and it's almost like a feeling. They abductees quite often, when they're aware of their situation and their circumstances, they can tell you when they meet someone else who is an abductee.
So it takes one to know one.
Yeah.
And
it's a feeling they get.
And I'm an empath, and I almost always can pick out empaths from when I meet them.
Yep.
That's saying yes, yes. And I think you were involved.
Yep.
So
which I learned from abductees.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, that I kept that stuff on the back burner. I wasn't really interested in it until they said, "Hey, do you know you're an empath?" What?
I knew you were an empath when we first
I'm a what?
Yeah, it's another takes one to know one.
I have heard, and I don't know if you found this, Bob, but like with your personal experience, but like I've heard that a lot of people that have been abducted also have a history of paranormal things. I know you mentioned the gifts or things like that before, but have had a history of like paranormal things happening to or around them.
Well, again, paranormal, if you have gifts, that usually tends to lend itself to you being more aware of different spectrums.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's absolutely true. If someone has a history of talking to dead people, they have a gift, and they're open. Their brain is opened up to different types of spectrums of communications, and that probably falls right in along the same lines of communications with abductees. I think it's your brain is sort of a transmitter receiver, and depending on your genetics, you pick up certain things that other people don't. So yeah, I think it's all related.
Yeah.
You know, in kind of a spectrum of things.
Now Jesse's sad.
No, I'm not sad.
Because she's seen paranormal things.
Well, she sees paranormal things, or
Oh,
what?
oh yeah.
Okay. Well,
I have seen paranormal things.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was raised by these two, so
We're pretty paranormal.
We're
all right?
paranormal. She's always shocked when her friends don't know. She's always shocked when her friends don't know things. She's like,
whoa, yeah.
"Whoa,
Where have you been?
you've never heard of this?" And then, no, never. And she said, "You're kidding me, right?"
You have lived a different life. I had a friend a few years ago with 2019 with the whole Storm Area 51 thing was happening. And she was like, "What is Area 51?" I was like, "Wow, are we kidding right now?" And I couldn't, it was blowing my mind. I was like, how have you not even picked this up? I mean, my favorite show when I was 10 was The X-Files, you know, like, so it blew my mind, but
we were bad parents.
No, that was a great show.
It was a great show.
It was cool.
We were not the parents when the kids came running in saying, "There's a ghost in my room," who said, "No, there's no such a thing as ghosts." We were not those
like,
parents.
well, no.
Well, that's better than, little gray aliens, right?
Oh my God,
yeah.
yes.
It is.
Agreed.
No doubt.
I think, yes,
No doubt.
for real. I mean,
I had. Go
at
ahead.
least ghosts are part of us, I think, but aliens, they're alien. We don't know what to expect from them. And plus, come on, let's be real. The majority of the stories that you hear are not that they are here to help humankind. The majority of the stories are that they're probing, that they use women as incubators for some kind of hybrid alien human.
Yep.
Chanel wants to know, Jesse.
Been doing it for years.
I know. Jess, did you give your parents the poster behind you that hung in Mulder's office?
No, we just have similar tastes.
Acorn didn't fall far from the tree.
Right.
No.
Well, we're going on 2 hours pretty soon.
2 hours.
There, yeah.
So probably we should let any more questions
Yeah.
from anyone in the audience while we
Right.
have Bob here. We don't have him here all
Well,
the
we
time.
wait for the last questions. Les and Beth, do you have anything else you would like to share tonight
Or talk about.
or talk about?
No, I don't think we have anything tonight.
I know nothing. I see nothing. I don't.
Hear no evil, see no evil.
He says that all the time. I don't believe him.
How about you, Jess? Any last words?
No, I
Well,
think
that sounds
I
rather
talked plenty,
pleasant.
I think, so.
Okay. Bob, anything you'd like to share?
Well, just keep looking up, keep looking up, keep asking questions. And, if something weird happens, know that you're not alone. There's lots of people out there to talk to, and everybody makes it through.
Yeah. If you see it, report it, right?
Report it to MUFON.
Yeah, absolutely report it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know to do that.
Exactly.
And it's easy to do.
Yeah.
You can look it up and they make it's very easy report to fill out, and then they'll send you eventually a field investigator to grill you. No, they'll just question you about what you said.
They don't grill people.
The men in black come and say, "What did you say?" No, nothing like that.
Don't say anything else.
It's easy. Chill Conjal says, Great show tonight. Thank you for having UFO abduction as the topic of discussion tonight. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone. You're welcome.
It's great.
Um,
Thank you, Bob, for coming. Then
You're
really
always welcome.
wonderful to have you.
I know. I couldn't believe that he could come. Chanel says, I want to be your sister, Jess. LOL. You have the best family.
I agree. The best.
I do too.
Oh,
Honorary. Well, I think you're both honorary sisters. So
All
there
right.
you go. Chanel.
There we go.
Paul Hollis says, very fascinating show. Thanks, everyone. Marjorie Deering says, thanks, everyone. It was really good. And I agree with Beth. Thank you, Bob. I mean, I was so thrilled that you would be able to come and spend time with us tonight. We appreciate it.
Yes.
You're welcome.
In the Tampa Bay Spirits newsroom, this just in, July 3rd, we will have a live broadcast. Now, that's going to be on a Tuesday night, but we're going to have a live broadcast from the Haunted Hill House in Mineral Wells, Texas. Our team is going there. Beth and Les and us are going to be there, and we're going to be filming and podcasting and getting chased by ghosts and everying. So it's should be interesting.
When is that?
wow.
July 3rd.
July 3rd.
Yeah.
No.
You going to tune in?
Yeah, we got-
I hope
There,
you
Les.
did.
Since you already have your plane reservations and your hotel reservation, I think that you
Oh, that's
know.
what she was doing the other night. I thought she was just going somewhere.
Wait till you get the bill. Whoa.
I hear you.
Chanel said, woohoo, I love Hill House. Remember, Chanel, don't tell us anything about it. I don't want to know
Yeah.
anything about
I
it.
don't know anything.
No, Beth and I need to go in cold. We don't need anything up in here giving us imaginations about what's going on. We want to get it straight from the ghost's mouth, so to speak. But it's very well known in the paranormal community. So I've heard about it forever, and it's supposed to be very active. Les told us that from what he read on the page.
They guarantee
Whoa.
we will have stuff.
That's pretty
Wow.
amazing.
Oh, is it a money back guarantee?
Let me see. I'll call and ask. I don't think so.
If it's a money back guarantee, that's pretty good, because you know how often we go places and we're like, yeah, nothing. We got nothing.
Say, well, that was fun.
Yeah.
We'll go listen to 8 hours of video.
Oh God, help us. We need a production company so somebody else can go through all that evidence
Yeah.
later on.
No kidding.
Oh my God.
Jeez. All righty.
It was exciting when we were there and it was happening. It's really boring when I have to go through
Yes.
and write everything down and
Watch all the stuff we didn't see anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
To get to where we did see something. Yeah. It's
All righty.
the joys of ghost hunting.
That's for sure.
4.5 hours of a camera in a hallway was riveting.
But
For
it
sure.
was the one time that it was in the hallway and the light showed up all by itself.
Yeah.
That was riveting.
That was pretty cool.
I like that one.
Those are the moments.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll let you all go. Thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you
us
for
tonight.
staying
and
so long with us.
Thanks for being on the panel, all you guys.
Remember next month?
Thanks for having me.
The last Thursday
Oh,
in
thanks
May.
for being here.
We'll be back.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for joining us here on
Oh, we'll have to
Thank you
talk.
for joining us.
What?